And next on the line here, we have Dark. What do you have for us?
Right. So I had Maou 2099. Demon Lord
Yes.
2099.
This is
Um
another one of the 50 JC staff
yeah, this is
series,
another
right?
one of the
This
300
season.
JC staff series. And yeah. So
So it's contender for anime of the season, right?
um so yeah, this is a story about like, a demon lord who
Mhm.
wakes up after an 80-year slumber.
80 year? Was it
And
800?
I think it's 80. I'm pretty sure, unless the subs I had were wrong. I'm almost positive it did say 80. Like it really was not that long. Um, but anyway, so that is
As a
the
second coming,
man.
5 years and 500 years, 5 centuries in the making? What? Whatever.
Hmm?
I
Yeah,
don't.
so it's a little confusing with like a lot of the time shit that they decide to play with, just because it's like, like I said, yeah, like a lot of shit winds up like happening. But
Mhm.
anyhow, the main thing is that our main guy, Violet, no, Velvet Vesvolt Veltol, um,
I was about to say
the
like
Demon
Violet
Lord.
Evergarden did this.
No, yeah, not Violet,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
close,
Demon
really, when you
Lord
think
pops
about
up.
it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so
Yeah.
he's the old Demon Lord. He was, obviously when he went into slumber, it was a fantasy world. Like this kind of opens with like flashbacks of the world like before it turned into the cyberpunk city of Shinjuku. Um,
Mhm.
and the anyway, so this kind of like happens where the demon lord wakes up. He's like kind of confused at his surroundings, and his one of his loyal vassals he meets up with starts to explain things to him, like what the state of the world is, what happened in between. And we get some nice flashbacks during this as well, of like him fighting the old hero, so on and so forth. And that vassal is Sole Machina Solege, Solge, something like that. They never
Solange?
really
Yeah,
say
Machina Solange.
anything.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
they never really say anything other than Machina, so it's a little kind of confusing. But yeah. Anyway, the real main thing that had happened, though, aside from obviously him dying, was that now they're in this cyberpunk world because their old world and another dimension wound up fusing. And that killed 90% of the population of like both combined.
Hell
Right.
yeah.
Um, yeah. And so I think I thought that was a pretty cool concept, just because like what had happened was, in their old world, the demon lord was like leading his troops against humans because they were all like, what do you call it, immortal, but I mean like, like effectively immortal, like biologically. That becomes pretty
Mhm.
clear. And in the old world, like with the hero and whatnot, like after that, after their fight, and before it, there were a lot of immortal hunts that the humans were conducting, where they would just hunt down and kill anyone who is both suspected of being an immortal and like obviously confirmed, like basically like witch hunt type shit. Um, because obviously there was the classic thing of like, oh, you guys serve this goddess, and our goddess wants us to like, get rid of all the immortals, and she'll bless us if we do it, so on and so forth.
Mhm.
But yeah, so I thought that concept was pretty neat, just having like, like on top of that, a big cataclysm happened that merged them with like a different world, like a tech world. And they wound up actually continuing the immortal hunts during that. Like they had a new immortal hunts, until they sort of like made a peace treaty type thing. Um,
Okay.
I thought that was also a pretty cool concept, that it's like, oh, the worlds merge. And then the new world was even like, oh shit, there are like these immortal people. Yeah, no, fuck them. But yeah, it's also established like they're not like evil by nature or anything like that. It is obviously just like a state of their being. And also that not
So,
like people can become immortal through different means, and it's just kind of like a catch-all term, whether you are like a vampire or just like a person who possesses a great amount of magic, whether that be like light magic, dark magic, so on and so forth. Um, and yeah, like even people gaining that as like a boon in the past. So yeah, it does kind of get into that sort of like um, just the unfairness of just casting out like immortals as just evil, things like that. And that kind of leaves us with uh, the demon lord being sort of like the man lost to time type deal, and
hmm,
trying to figure out sort of how he factors into that, into the new world space.
I'm
And
curious
as
as
I was just gonna
to
say, as far as like civilization
yeah.
details go, it does the whole cyberpunk thing of everyone has the funny brain chips with computers. He can't use it. Um,
Oh, okay, yeah, okay.
yeah. So
I'm curious. So can I ask a question? Sorry, can I? I'm still not entirely certain as to what the structure of the overall series slash story is. So from what you're describing, is it like statecraft or is it like overlord kind of business or is it just him just taking on a journey? What is it? I don't really understand what the format of the story of the anime season is.
So the general story is he's like, obviously he wakes up, he's a man lost to time. He does not have much powers anymore,
Okay.
because he does not have followers. Like the more people who, sort
So is
of
it like a Demon Lord
either
Academy kind of business, or like
yeah,
what's happening?
no, it's like it's basically like, the more people who either hate him or love him, like it doesn't matter which, the
Uh-huh.
more power he is given, essentially. The more his magic can
Okay.
overrule. The main thing that has happened so far in the first 6 episodes was his old vassal Marcus, who was like a blood magic guy, betrayed him and created like the brain chip things, and specifically made it so that if he ever came back, he could not use one. And so because
Okay.
he wants to essentially take the place as a sort of demon lord, and he's trying to use the brain chip stuff, the tech that everyone runs on, as that factor. And so he has his own company, he's like the evil CEO type guy. And
Yeah,
that kind
yeah,
of
yeah.
also works into, the whole cyberpunk setting, he did, like doing corpo shit. Um, and the general story now is the demon lord like trying to get his magic back and then trying to go against Marcus. Um,
So is he doing that?
I
Is
won't
this
spoil it. There
is
is
that?
another reason to go after Marcus and his company as well. Not really going to get
Mhm.
into. I'm not going to spoil why effectively.
So it's like a general kind of drama mystery action kind of thing. He's like kind of alone, and he's in this world, but he's kind of traveling through it to in order to kind of take down the company or take down the CE, take
Take
down
back,
his
yeah, well, yeah, primarily
subordinate
take
previous
back,
CEO,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Yeah,
primarily like take back what he is lost. And so
right.
in doing so, he does meet the hero again. This is a minor spoiler. The hero was given, quote unquote, blessed with eternal youth, which he explains is not quite immortality. So I think the idea there is that he'll obviously live longer. He is just aging. It's just that his body does not. Like his perception of time is the
Is it
same
like
as a human. Um, and he does not. Yeah, he does not have like the same sort of uh, like the classic thing where like elves obviously like the perception of time is longer, or like longer times are perceived as shorter, so on and so forth. He's like kind of just stuck in this shitty world
so
now.
when you
Mhm.
say he's not immortal, right?
Yeah.
So is it like Lord of the Rings where elves can live forever, but if they die in battle, they die, that kind of thing?
Oh no, that's what immortals do, effectively. Like they are effectively immortal. They are biologically immortal. They are magically immortal in some sense, but there are like plenty of ways to kill them. Like if you are just an average person who is either given immortality or got immortality through certain means, that's why humans were able to do effectively like witch hunts and like enough. Like if you're not as strong as an immortal, because immortals could also be, have their magic weakened, or just be weak but just be immortal. Humans could just kill them. Like they could just find a way, whether it be through like decapitation or just like incinerating their body enough to where they can't come back. Um, and I also think that it's not implied that immortality automatically also gives you, like regeneration. Like they are, you could technically be like biologically immortal, where you like,
So I
you don't age. You are effectively like, an elf, as Toast described. The situation with Graham is more so of like the hero is like you've just been given the ability to be stuck in this one physical um aspect of your life, but he might not live hundreds of years, or thousands rather. He might only live like a couple hundred, if anything.
I'm curious as to what the so are the episodes like, so what is the general like so he's again
Hey,
he's
like
traveling
pacing
through,
of
he's
the
meeting these
episode.
people.
It
Yeah, is he in the alleyways just trying to like, is it mostly just him kind of brooding and like thinking about how to stop this guy and the like finding
No,
out new
that's the other
information,
thing.
background of the
This
story, or like
series is a
what is it?
lot. This series is gets pretty goofy. The main character's main shtick is
Immediately?
that, well, there's a lot of comedic aspects to it. The
Okay, okay.
main the main idea is, or the main shtick is like, obviously Velvet is the old demon lord, and his thing is like, he's a pretty boy, right? He's got the long black hair, he has like the persistent, purple eye makeup. Um and it gets a lot of play with that. And there's obviously also an episode where people think he's just like, bystanders hear him talking to Machina, and they think he's just like some piece of shit moocher boyfriend. So there's
Mhm.
like an episode where he's trying to get a job. There's an episode where he meets another sort of main character who's like a hacker. And
Right, right, right.
that helps him like get his bearing in the world, because she's like, oh, this is all Magitek, by the way. I didn't explain that. Everything is like, they literally are like, yeah, no, this is Magitek. I'm pretty sure they even say
Okay.
that as well, where everything is
Yeah.
running on magic and the old human technology from the worlds that merged. Um,
Mhm.
so that's like, Velvet learning through her effectively how to manipulate certain things, manipulate systems
Mhm.
through him just like raw tampering with the magics that run them. So he still can't get one of the brain
Oh, okay,
things and
okay.
do that kind of hacking, but he can kind of get the gist of how things work through his old magics.
It's kind of like it's kind of like some, it's almost like some machine spirit level kind of thing, or not even machine
Yeah.
spirit. It's like Necron kind of stuff. It's like you're kind of he's infused with the power to like affect this technology, or like be able to kind of like be able to engineer the technology, but he doesn't really know the specifics, right?
Yeah,
It's
it
like
seems like
yeah.
well, so he can learn the specifics of the technology by like, using
Mhm.
another old magic of like, oh, I hadn't had this great sage thing that lets me understand how things work. But
Right.
like the more advanced it gets, the harder it is for him to directly manipulate it. I think in
Right,
the
right, right.
way they show it is more so of like, imagine a character in a normal world that had the power to manipulate electricity in like any way, shape, or form, right?
Mhm.
Technically, you could argue like, oh, they could like hack something by tampering with it, but like you wouldn't expect a character to like easily be able to, I don't know, like do a file transfer, or like hack
Right,
in
right,
that
right,
way,
exactly.
right? But they
Yeah.
might be able, they'll be able to like crack open like an ATM or something, or like force it to
Right,
spit
right,
out
right.
money.
Mhm.
Um, that seems to be like sort of the general thing that he is playing with. Some other episodes,
Mhm.
like that's why I'm only on episode 6 right now, and it's like kind of weird the way it goes back and forth with it being like, there's obviously the company through line, but then there was overall like a not really episodic thing, but like kind of building up to
The wor-
the current
Is it
face
like
off
world building? Like,
in like
what is
yeah,
it?
yeah, it's like world building, but also like I don't know, it's kind of weird, right? Because obviously there was the screenshots that we saw of the VTuber. And
Mm-hmm.
so one of the things they do is they dedicate sort of like an episode of him becoming a streamer to get followers, right? And that like boosting his power.
Oh,
And
okay, okay. I see what you mean. Yeah,
since
yeah,
he
yeah,
is
yeah,
like
yeah, yeah, yeah,
handsome and charming, he
yeah,
gets
yeah,
that
yeah, yeah.
in like pretty quickly. And the old like the hacker kind of uses her pull to also like boost him. And so he kind of just amasses followers like that. But that kind of like ties into the hacker's backstory, feeds into sort of other characters and interactions. And then now, like, the big thing that's happening is the standoff with, um, Marcus and the company. Um, and so it's like, it's kind of hard to really explain, to like not call it episodic in a way, because like it's kind of like unclear as to how things are going to tie up during a lot of episodes or tie in. But they do
Mhm.
wind up tying in. So that's kind of where it's at.
Yeah.
There is some action. There's not like a ton. Um, I think the main focus is more so of like world building and, like I said, the sort of like man lost to time shtick,
Yeah,
and him
I just
amassing like new followers and whatnot.
yeah. The reason why I'm like asking questions like this is because the tone of the series seems very peculiar to me, where the aesthetics, setup of the premise, you got to go kill a CEO that's like betrayed you, and it's all like cyberpunk, and cyberpunk is inherently, I think we can all agree, a relatively dark genre, right? Um, because it's supposed to be dystopian, based upon dystopian, futuristic technologies. And then we have this, as you said, throw line and this undercurrent story going on. But then you also said that most of the episodes is kind of just this general, more top level world building, and then these like comedic aspects kind of coming in, right? Like the VTuber streaming and so on. So
Yeah.
it's an,
So like some of the episodes, like at certain aspects, like they do get like with some of the flashbacks too. They kind of show that like even the old world was like pretty shit for them, especially for immortals, like being hunted down, being like burned at the fucking stake, and like and showing how he even amassed like a following in the first place through that, because he
Mhm,
gave them obviously hope, so on and so forth. It gets pretty dark with like the hero's backstory and his current state of affairs. But obviously, like I said, they do try and do like a lot of like comedic things with Velvet, and like being the stoic, like pretty boy, strong guy, who
mhm.
doesn't get the tech because he's also old. He's an old man. Um, but yeah, so there's a lot of
Yeah.
that.
Okay.
There's a lot of kind of like trying to connect, I guess, the cyberpunk world with the old world in that way too.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah,
There's not
not
as
not
much of
like
like the old world kind of throwbacks, right, compared to the current cyberpunk world, like setup.
no. There is not. That is true.
Mhm,
It's a lot of like maybe the intro of an episode might have a flashback to be like, oh, here's like what this character was doing in the old world.
mhm,
So on and so forth. I think a little bit what I'd like to see and has not been shown in the series yet is, like I said, the two worlds merging, and not there really hasn't been a person from not the old world, from the like non-fantasy world that has played like any significant of a role or really shown up good, like, so to
mhm,
speak. Like they like it effectively could just be a fantasy world that turned into a cyberpunk world rather than just being
mhm,
like um a world that merged. I feel like that was kind of just a way to like create a cataclysm to begin with, like an excuse more than
Mhm.
anything. Which is kind of unfortunate in that case. But I mean, there still could be a person who shows up, obviously after episode 6 and 7, so on and so forth, with whatever arc
Mhm.
is about to happen after, because I can't imagine the current one with the current company lasting much longer than these episodes, because it does seem like it's kind of gone to a head with the recent
Mhm.
one. So
Dark,
that
have you
Do you
mentioned
think
them?
kind of where that's
there's
at.
gonna be like a proper after story if this company kind of gets
I
shut down, or
I don't really know, because like I said, I'm not really sure what they're gonna do, because like obviously the main goal of the Demon Lord is to sort of gain back his power and influence in the
Mhm.
same way he used to have. So
Right.
they could do that. They could go in a direction where like there's either like another conflict, another company, or they could just go with him heading up like a cyberpunk like company and trying to establish dominance like in that way too, and rebuild the old guard. But
Right.
it's kind of unclear as to me as to where that's gonna go right now.
Mhm.
But overall, I think it's not too terrible. Um,
But
Yeah.
Dark, did you mention the most important character in the series?
yeah, I forget what is that VTuber's name again.
Bro, it's Toa.
Yeah. So she actually shows up on the monitors quite a bit, and like
She's literally the most important character in the series.
yeah, so she's the one
I'm
that
not joking.
influences really. She's the one who obviously influences him to get like a streamer, like to be like, oh, do a streamer, you'll get followers, people will adore
Oh,
you.
nice.
But
That's pretty good.
his thing is also that like he also feeds trolls. Um,
Mhm.
because like I said, it doesn't matter whether or not they hate him or love him, as long as they have an opinion
Right.
of him, he
On
gets
extreme
more and more
emotion kind of,
power.
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
And
Uh,
every time Toa appeared, it's actually been one of her streams of this year.
Really?
Yeah, it's
Okay,
literally one of her streams this year.
that's actually
So it's like
a really good gimmick.
I can't believe Hololive survived until 2099, and
Yeah.
Toa's still streaming.
can you, by the way, can you tell us a little bit about the audio visuals real quick?
Yeah, I was gonna get into that now too. So audio
Mm.
visuals are not incredible, but also not terrible either. It's one of those things where the action isn't like great. They're not really doing anything special. It's not like wow, these cuts are cool. It's kind of just like yeah, this fight is a fight, and it is doing what you'd kind of expect. Um, it's just like displays of his power, things like that, like things him moving so fast you don't see him and shit like that happening at certain times too. So it's like really trying to
Mhm.
cheat its way through it, but it's serviceable in that aspect. I think the real obviously like the mean potatoes is like both the man lost it to time and sort of like the power fantasy and him gaining that power back as you're
Yeah.
the real thing you're looking for here anyway. Um,
Right, right.
some of the powers are flashy. The designs are cool, especially in like their immortal forms.
How are the
That's
battle
been
scenes
neat.
or the action scenes
Yeah,
rather?
yeah. Like I said, the action scenes are like kind of whatever. They're kind of serviceable. They're
Mhm.
not like terrible, but they're also not great. In the
Are the
same way, like
frames
you look at the audio
noticeable, or is
visuals.
it like pretty smooth?
No, I mean it's like kind of noticeable. Like I said, they cheat a lot as
Okay.
well. It's a lot of like cheating camera angles
Okay.
and
Yeah,
like the
yeah, yeah,
powers. Like I
yeah,
said, like him
yeah,
moving so fast you don't see him. Shit
yeah.
like that. So
Yeah.
there are some powers that are cool though that they like kind of go a little harder for him like parting
Uh-huh.
clouds at one point and sort of like Marcus summoning like a ton of blood swords, things like that.
Mhm.
Um But yeah, so like it's not terrible, but it's also like this is not really a series where I feel like you're coming to it for action in that way. That said, I
Right,
haven't
right, right.
seen like the battle of like it coming to a head with Marcus, so I can't, I can't speak on that yet anyway.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, it does kind of lead me to wonder like maybe that will be one where they really, really go all out with. But I think the focus is a little bit more on, like I said, the man lost the time and world building type stuff anyway.
Right,
Um,
right, right.
but yeah, I think that's been fun. I think the character interactions are really fun as well, so it kind of makes up for it. The audio is a little kind of crazy. I'd
What
have
do
to
you
go
mean?
back and listen to how many songs are in it, but like I don't know what the fuck is going on, but the music, the person who's doing the music for this is Tetsuya Kato, and he's done the music for like Idolish 7,
Oh,
all the
okay, okay,
Doctor
okay.
Stone, Shokugeki no Soma, and stuff like that. And a lot of these tracks, and Trigon Stampede, and a lot of these tracks are like they're just like, oh yeah, here's a fight, and also like it's like all of these tracks are vocal tracks, or like here's a background track that's like a mellowed out like rap and stuff, and it's a vocal
Uh-huh.
track. Like there's
Oh
so many
no.
vocal tracks. It's not like bad though either. It's like kind
I
of.
think he's like full idle brained at this point. At that point,
But that's the
where
thing. It's
he's
like
like,
some of it's
yeah.
like, oh, here's like the background like cyberpunk like hip hop track, and it's a vocal track, and
Mm.
it's like, why is there so many vocal tracks? It's odd.
Right,
But
right,
it's
right.
not bad either. It's just like you start hearing this music and you're like, this series like
The
has
composition is good, but it's
tons of
like,
vocal tracks.
why
Like
is it
what?
vocal? Yeah, yeah.
Like
Why is it
wait, what?
vocal?
It's like, is this an insert song? And it's like, no.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
What?
exactly.
Like wait, why? Like, wait, then why is it a vocal track? Um,
Oh my
so that's kind
god.
of that's kind of interesting. That's kind of weird. But it's also not bad. So
Mhm.
I would say that's honestly one of the more charming parts about the series for me is the music. And being hit with stuff like that, and it's like, oh, okay, like
Mhm.
this is definitely like a weirdly higher production for like music than there is for video for the visuals. So
Right,
that's
right,
interesting.
right.
Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, so that's been good. Just the sound design outside of that is fine too. Some
Mhm.
good stuff. The character designs are really fun. Um, Obviously, like there is certain characters that do look like the shitty cyberpunk like mishmash of a bunch of bullshit you expect, like a fucking an orc with like neon green hair and wearing like the cyberpunk jacket, stuff like that. Um,
Right.
but it's not bad. It's not the end of the world. Seeing like some of that, like some of the garish looks. The main cast is pretty fun and like more subdued. A lot of like some of them might be wearing a suit. Velvet wears like a really shitty t-shirt and like tracksuit. Um,
That's the classic, like, oh, I'm a demon king, but it's like I'm in the modern world now, kind of business.
yeah, he saw the tracksuit and was like, "My God, these clothes are so refined. Look at its
Yeah.
simplistic, sleek nature."
Yeah.
Um,
It's like all those like demon lore gets booted into like Hataraku Mouse-sama, stuff like that. You know what I mean? It's
yeah,
like that shit. Yeah.
yeah. Except in his case, he's not like trying to be a bum. He just thinks that actually looks, high class, and everyone
Mm.
around him doesn't have the heart to tell him that he looks like a
Yeah,
fucking
exactly.
bum. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, and then like I said, I think the highlights are things like the world building and character interactions so far.
Mm.
And
Okay.
and and like the visuals for the setting, some of the backgrounds are pretty nice. I haven't really noticed the like horrifically like anything like close to JC Staff's like normal antics with CG and horrifically bad backgrounds. Maybe I'm just like looking past that. Like I mean, it's definitely not like One Punch Man season 2 level because there's no fucking way I wouldn't have noticed that.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, 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 yeah.
but it is possible that I've kind of just been way more focused on like the character interactions and sort of like vibe, like atmosphere of the world than I am of
Mm.
what do you call it? Focusing more on that to like sort of like
Mhm.
notice a lot of the cracks. There are certain like scenes like the big Marcus's like company building where you're like, okay, I can kind of like see what's going on here. But I do think that like a lot of the lighting of the backgrounds and sort of like the darker atmosphere of the cyberpunk setting anyway is probably masking a lot of that. There
Right.
was also notably like a mech suit fight at one point that didn't look like the mech didn't look like JC Saf like dog shit where it looks like something there hasn't been a change since
Was it
JC
CG?
Saf
Was it
CG for
CG?
yes. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And so like it was better than
They
you would
must have hired
expect. Like it
somebody
was
probably.
normal. Like so yeah, I wonder if there was like a subcontract for that. I haven't
There
seen
had to be, because
With
I'm
yeah,
money.
pretty sure
I don't see any other like credits right now, but probably. Like
Mhm.
JC Staff is late as
Yeah.
far as I had watched from like Index 3 was out here and it's like, "Oh, your fucking CG has not changed from 2008." Nice. Good job, guys. But this looked competent. This looked nice enough in that aspect. So,
Mhm.
not
Okay,
bad
that's pretty good at
overall.
least. Yeah.
I guess like another like small thing was they made I get like that even looked like better than you would expect was them like remaking fucking like a Dark Souls game for him to play on stream. So,
Oh, okay. I know what you're talking
yeah.
about, yeah.
Yeah. So that looked better than you would have expected too. So that was like kind of
Mhm.
kind of strange, kind of interesting. Um
Right.
but yeah, it's I don't know. It's not a bad series by any measure. It's pretty fun.
Yeah. It's pretty good though. I guess overall, do you want to just wrap it up? What rating would you give it?
I think Malls is actually pretty accurate. I would say something between a 7 and a 7.5. This
Okay.
isn't something that I would be like jumping to tell people to like watch.
Watch it, yeah. But
Yeah,
it's
like oh man, you
surprisingly
gotta
okay.
watch it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's like it's a fun watch. It's enjoyable.
Mhm.
If you've either like run out of shit or you're just like looking for things to watch like for a season,
Yep.
I'm like, okay,
Yep.
this is good. This is fine to watch. This is something that you
Yeah.
can at least like engage with, pay attention to the characters, um, and have fun with, uh, as
Mhm.
just a series overall. It's
Mhm.
not it's not at least at the point where you're looking at like an isekai series and you're like, yeah, I guess it's like fucking watchable. It's more than
Yeah.
that. So
It's like I don't exactly want to jump off a bridge right now, but so I guess I'll check this out. Kind of
yeah,
this
it
is.
doesn't like feel like other series. So you're gonna if you watch it, you're in for something that you probably haven't seen for a little bit at least. With these
Mhm.
types of things, and atmospherically, it'll probably be distinct enough for you. Will say, the only other comment I would give was that obviously some of the cyberpunk aspects are kind of like not really. I don't know. It's like it is cyberpunk, but at the same time, it's like kind of pretty watered down in a lot of ways.
A
Um,
lot of it's kind of smoothed over by, well, it's two things, right? Where it's like, well, there is world building. Like world building is a significant aspect of it, but I feel like it's probably a lot of it's watered down by kind of waving
visually,
it off
it's a little
of the magic.
softer. Of
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
yeah,
and a lot of it's waved off with like the magic part of it. I'm guessing.
yeah. There's also a
Yeah.
lot of green. There's a lot of highlight. There's a lot of green, and I prefer.
How would you know it's technological unless it's the matrix everywhere you look?
I
So
know. I don't like the because it's like a FF7. Like they zoom out and like this city's like part of it is like fucking glowing green, and I'm like,
yeah.
And some of the backgrounds, like some of the scenes, it's like tinted. Everything's tinted green. I was like, I'd really like a more subdued but neutral like look for that for something cyberpunk, in my opinion.
Mhm.
Um, but that's just me. Or
Right,
blues.
right.
I don't know. I don't like green. I don't like green for that. Just kind of feels
Okay,
more like
so
Matrixy, which is not
yeah,
Cyberpunk.
that's what yeah, which is just like I feel like they
That's just like
wanted to do
future
cyberpunk,
shit. Yeah,
but
it's like
it
Cyberpunk is
was
not just like
very
future shit, right? Like,
it was very vibes based cyberpunk is what I'll put it charitably. We're
yeah,
both being charitable. It's a vibes based cyberpunk, which is not really cyberpunk. It's just like, oh, there's like brain
it's the
chips
future, and like
instead of the
sometimes
brain worms,
someone
it's
will
the brain
have like
chips.
weird
Yeah,
hair or something, but none of the
yeah.
main characters though.
It's like Jinx, but like 500 years into the future. It's like it's
Yeah,
like,
it's like,
but
right, I guess.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I
I
would
mean,
say
it
that would be
still
my
seems like a
biggest
bit
complaint.
raw.
I
Yeah.
do wish
Yeah.
that and like maybe the music and whatnot. Because even though I don't hate the music, I appreciate the music.
Mhm.
I think something like an actual more attempt to add a like cyberpunk thing would be much cooler.
Okay. Okay. All right. I guess that about does it for Demon Lore 2099. I'm glad that you helped cover this because it was one of the things that interested me, but the premise seemed a little bit too out of left field, and it seemed a little bit iffier than one might get from actually watching this series. But I'm glad that you covered it. It ended up being a more fun romp than we kind of saw from the previous show, and I'm glad that it is a properly watchable series to be sure.
Yeah.
So, um, but yeah, this is Demon Lord 2099, Maou 2099. It's kind of like set in this futuristic, not really cyberpunk, but like futuristic technological dystopian, Magitek kind of setting. Has Demon Lord kind of dropped in it. He's in this modern time and he's kind of going through it, trying to um, properly regain his powers and defeat the people who are opposing him. This is one of the 5 billion series being made by JC staff this time around, but thankfully they got some proper subcontractors, and I'm hearing proper 3D CG related contractors on the payroll. So they're doing a pretty decent job of it on the audio visuals. So if
Was
you want to, yeah,
was Hatarku also JC staff?
hey, that's a
I
good
feel like
question
that was
actually.
A1.
It won, yeah. I was about to
No,
say
Hataraka Maosama was definitely not JC staff, so you're probably right about it being A1.
I'm go-
It was
I'm
White
gonna put
Fox.
one for
Oh, okay,
White
White
Okay.
Fox.
Fox.
All right.
Oh, I'm not surprised that's White Fox. God
Yeah.
damn it. Uh, that was the least surprising thing, but we all got it wrong. Yeah. But
To be
yeah,
fair,
This
that was before their like complete descent into
isekai,
fucking
like
isekai
yeah,
slop
isekai,
shit.
everything. Yeah, exactly. That's true. When they were the good ones. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, again, thank you, Dark, for helping to cover Mao 2099. And if you guys want to check it out, please do when you have time. Again, it's a much better romp than expected from the cover art slash previews.